What would you do if your absolute best friend in the world was secretly praying for your downfall? Dalo sat in the back of an expensive Uber, watching the rain streak down the window, her phone buzzing against her palm with a text from the one person she used to trust with her whole life. The message read, "Are you sure you want to go to this brunch? Seyi is going to be there." Dalo didn't reply, she just looked at her reflection in the glass. The girl staring back wasn't the 200-pound teenager who used to hide behind oversized hoodies and wait in the car while her best friend, Yinka, flirted with every guy in the room. She was glowing, confident and completely transformed. But as the car pulled up to the restaurant, Dalo's chest tightened because she knew today wasn't about brunch. Today was about setting a trap that had been 5 years in the making. Growing up, Dalo and Yinka were inseparable. Yinka was the star, striking, funny, effortlessly charismatic and light-complexioned, enough that guys would practically break their necks turning around when she walked into a room. Dalo was the quiet sidekick. She was the safe friend. Whenever guys approached them at parties or mall foods, it was always the same routine. They would make polite small talk with Dalo for 30 seconds just to ask for Yinka's Snapchat. Yinka loved it. She would squeeze Dalo's hand afterward and say, "Don't worry, babe. Your time is coming. You are so pretty on the inside." Dalo swallowed those pity compliments for years. She genuinely loved Yinka and thought Yinka loved her back. But when Dalo turned 18, something changed. So sick of feeling invisible, Dalo decided to change her diet, started lifting weights, and committed to a rigorous routine. Over 18 months, 80 pounds had melted away. Her jawline emerged, her skin cleared up, and suddenly, the oversized hoodies were replaced by fitted jeans and sundresses. That's when the dynamic broke. Instead of celebrating, Yinka started pulling back. The daily phone calls dropped to text messages. When people complimented Dalo's transformation, Yinka would jump in with subtle digs. "Yeah, Dalo works out so much now, it's crazy. She used to eat 2 full pizzas by herself in high school." When guys at local hangouts started asking Dalo for her number, Yinka would subtly pull them aside and laughably whisper warnings about how desperate Dalo was getting now that she had a little attention. Yinka was used to being the undisputed center of attention. She had a strict taxonomy for guys: dark-skinned ball players, light-skinned college dudes, effortlessly handsome guys, and she claimed them all. Dalo, despite her physical change, was still insecure. She lacked the cold practice flirting skills that Yinka had possessed. Every time Dalo tried talking to a guy Yinka liked, she froze up. Yinka stayed 5 steps ahead, reminding Dalo without words that losing weight doesn't automatically make you the main character. Then Seyi came in. Seyi was legendary in their circle. He was a tall, impossibly attractive, light-skinned guy with sharp features, deep dimples, and a reputation for being completely untouchable. Neither Yinka nor Dalo had ever managed to get close to him. He was the ultimate prize. One Friday night at a rooftop lounge, Seyi walked in. Yinka immediately adjusted her hair, put on her signature smile, and made her move. She stood near the bar, striking up a conversation, dropping subtle laughs, doing everything that usually worked. Dalo stayed back by the booth, sipping her drink and expecting Yinka to walk away with his number like she always did. Then the first thing happened. Seyi excused himself from Yinka in the middle of a sentence, walked straight past her, and sat down right next to Dalo. Yinka's jaw literally dropped from across the room. Seyi ignored the tension completely. He leaned in, looked straight into Dalo's eyes and whispered, "I've been watching you all night. You are the most stunning girl in this place." Dalo's heart hammered against her ribs. For the first time in her life, she felt chosen over Yinka. Seyi asked for her phone, typed his number in, and booked a date with her for Sunday afternoon at an upscale cafe downtown. When Yinka walked back over, her smile was rigid and her eyes were cold. "Wow," Yinka muttered, staring at Seyi's contacts in Dalo's screen. "I guess he has a thing for late bloomers." Dalo brushed off the sting because she was floating. Sunday came and Dalo spent 3 hours getting ready. She wore an emerald green dress that hugged her new silhouette perfectly. When she arrived at the restaurant, Seyi was already sitting at a corner table looking like a fashion model. For the first 45 minutes, the date was a dream. Seyi was charming, attentive, and laughed at all her jokes. Dalo felt a surge of validation she had craved for years. But just as the appetizers arrived, Seyi's eyes flickered toward the entrance. His posture went stiff. A tall girl with long braids walked in, his ex-girlfriend Mabu. Without saying a word to Dalo, Seyi stood up. He walked straight past their table, intercepted Mabu near the hostess stand, and wrapped his arms around her waist. Dalo sat frozen, fork in hand, as Seyi leaned down and kissed Mabu deeply right in front of the entire restaurant. Dalo's face burnt with humiliation. People at neighboring tables were looking back and forth between Dalo sitting alone with 2 plates of food and Seyi passionately kissing his ex 10 feet away. Seyi didn't even turn back to look at Dalo. He grabbed Mabu's hand, walked out the front door, and left Dalo sitting there with the entire bill. Crushed, humiliated, and fighting back tears, Dalo called Yinka to pick her up. Yinka arrived 20 minutes later. But as Dalo got into the passenger seat, crying her eyes out, she noticed something chilling. Yinka didn't look angry on her behalf. In fact, Yinka was struggling to hide a subtle, satisfied smirk. "I told you, babe," Yinka said, patting Dalo's knee with fake sympathy. "Guys like Sei, they don't take girls like us seriously. Well, girls like you anyway." That night broke something inside Dalu, but also opened her eyes. The second thing was, 2 weeks after the restaurant incident, Dalu found out the truth through a mutual acquaintance. Sei hadn't randomly bumped into his ex at that restaurant. Yinka had tipped Mabu off. Knowing Sei and Mabu had an unstable, toxic on and off dynamic, Yinka had texted Mabu the exact time and location of Sei's dates with Dalu, egging her on to go fight for her man. Yinka had engineered Dalu's public humiliation just to put her back in her place. When Dalu confronted Yinka with the text receipts, Yinka didn't even apologize. She snapped, "You thought you were better than me just because you lost some weight?" Yinka sneered, "You'll always be the fat, insecure girl living in my shadow. Get over yourself." That was the last day they spoke. Dalu cut Yinka out entirely. She focused on her career, moved to a new part of the city, built real self-confidence and completely grew into herself. She wasn't seeking validation from anyone anymore, especially not men and definitely not fake friends. 3 years passed. Dalu was now 23, thriving as a successful graphic designer, looking better than ever and living comfortably on her own. She was invited to an exclusive high-end Sunday brunch hosted by mutual college alumni. She knew Yinka might be there, but Dalu didn't care anymore. She wasn't hiding from her past. Dalu arrived at the sunlit glass rooftop venue, wearing a sharp-tailored white jumpsuit. As expected, Yinka was there, sitting at a center table with 2 other girls. Yinka looked mostly the same, but her aura was bitter. Her eyes locked onto Dalu the second she walked in, scanning her from head to toe, clearly agitated by how stunning and unbothered Dalu looked. Dalu smiled politely from across the room and took a seat at a different table with her own friends. 10 minutes later, a guy stepped onto the patio. It was Sei. He was older, sharper and wearing a tailored navy linen shirt. He surveyed the patio and his eyes immediately landed on Dalu. He didn't notice Yinka sitting 3 feet away.
Hey Dalu, I see you are looking as radiant as ever today.
A smooth, confident smile spreading across his face. "Dalu?" Sei asked, his voice low and charming. "Wow, I almost didn't recognize you. You look incredible." The entire patio went quiet. Yinka watched from her table, her knuckles white as she gripped her mimosa glass. Sei pulled out the empty chair next to Dalu and sat down. "Look, I know it's been years," Sei said, dropping all his usual arrogant composure. "I know how badly I messed up back then. Leaving you at the restaurant was the biggest mistake of my life. I was young, dumb, and caught up in a toxic cycle. I've thought about you so many times since then. Please let me make it up to you. Let me take you out properly tonight." It was the ultimate movie moment. The handsome guy who crashed her years ago was now begging for a second chance in front of the toxic ex-friend who had set her up. Yinka was practically vibrating with rage, staring at Dalu, waiting to see if Dalu would jump at the chance to finally win the guy Yinka couldn't have. Dalu looked at Sei's handsome face, his dimples, his expectant smile. Then she looked across the room at Yinka. Dalu didn't look angry. She didn't look flustered. She only leaned back, let out a soft, elegant laugh, and looked Sei dead in the eye. "Sei, you don't have to pretend," Dalu said, her voice carrying clearly across the quiet patio as everyone could hear. "Yinka paid you to come over here, didn't she?" A gasp echoed across the tables. Sei's smooth expression instantly cracked. His eyes darted nervously toward Yinka, then back to Dalu. "What? No, what are you talking about?" 5 minutes before you walked in, Dalu said smoothly, holding up her phone. "Yinka's roommate sent me a screenshot of your group chat. Yinka saw me walk in today, panicked because she knew she couldn't outshine me anymore, and texted you offering to pay off your $400 bar tab if you came over here, pretended to apologize, asked me out, and then flaked on me again to put me in my place." The silence on the rooftop was deafening. Every eye turned to Yinka. Yinka's face flashed bright red, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. She tried to speak, but no sound came out. Sei stood up so fast his chair scraped loudly against the towel. Humiliated and exposed as a pathetic puppet, he turned on his heel and rushed out of the venue without saying another word. Dalu took a slow sip of her iced glass water. She didn't scream, and she didn't make a scene. She simply stood up, walked over to Yinka's table and leaned down. "You spent 5 years thinking I was competing with you," Dalu said softly, her voice dripping with calm authority. "But the truth is, Yinka, I was only ever trying to be your friend. You broke your own heart trying to keep me in the dark, but you forgot one thing. Plants grow in the dark too." As Dalu turned to leave the patio, a calm, tall, dark-complexioned man who had been sitting at the bar stood up and walked over, handing Dalu her coat. It was Mabu's older brother, Yinka's first true love from high school, the one guy Yinka had spent years trying to get back. the one who had ghosted her years ago because of her toxicity. He wrapped a gentle arm around Dalu's waist, smiled down at her and kissed her cheek. They had been happily dating for 6 quiet months, completely off social media, building a genuine, healthy connection away from all the drama. Dalu didn't look back at Yinka once as they walked out into the sunshine together. She didn't need to win a competition that was beneath her all along. Real confidence isn't about proving you are better than the people who tried to break you. It's about reaching a point where their games can't even reach you anymore. If someone you considered a sister showed you their true colors today, would you have the strength to walk away forever? Or would you stay and burn yourself down just to win a game that was rigged from the start?